reach over. I'm used to the controllers being much closer. All right, here we go again, David. Welcome to another episode of the Rant Network. It is Monday, noon somewhere. And David and I take this down every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, and send up, 20 to 50 clips every single day. Another eruption, because here we go again, tied to Iran. More reports, more unrest, more imagines, testimonies filtering, censorship, internet blackouts, intimidation. Once again, we're left asking the question that feels increasingly more uncomfortable, but increasingly necessary. Where are the sustained front page stories in the reliable media? Where is the prime time panels going over what's going on in Iran? Where is the breathless updates and the investigated deep dives illustrating the death tolls caused by this conflict? But we're seeing crickets. Because when there's violence breaks out in Iran and protesters are met with force, civilians that have been reportedly killed, detained, or been disappeared, the response is basically the famous sound of crickets. Silence matters. Let's be clear. Something up front. This isn't sensationalism. It's about beating the drum of war. And it's certainly not about dismissing the complexity of the Middle East. We understand this pattern. The pattern of the Iranian regime is not new. I know recently we've all seen pictures of what the pearl of the Middle East looked like in the early 70s, late 60s. But for 4 decades, Iran's leadership has maintained power through repression, regression, aggression, and threats. This is not a controversial statement. This is documented international observer, human rights organizations, and even by its Iranian-owned history. Elections without opposition, protests answered with murderous force, journalists imprisoned, beaten, and disappeared, dissidents silenced, disappeared, and murdered, women in minorities subjected to rigid controls, beaten, murdered, raped, stoned. David, I don't want to go on. I know that in the green room, you wanted to bring this topic to light, and in anger over the covering of Minnesota, but not the covering of tens of thousands murdered and disappeared in Iran. Now, as everyone in this audience knows, David and I are 2 Jewish white guys. He's in Montreal and I'm in Florida. And so why are we putting so much attention on this carnage from a people that have been, for the last 40 years, the largest sponsors of terrorism in the planet? I'm going to let David jump on in.
Okay, well, Stuart, here's where things go crazy. You tell me, folks. What is up? You tell me what's up. What is it wrong? What did exactly went wrong? In October 7th, the marches already began against Israel. Israel hadn't done anything. Israel hadn't retaliated. One of the most brutal attacks on people, 1,200 people. And what did the United Nations say? You need to show us proof. Show us proof that there was a rape. Show us proof that there was a murder. We don't believe you because we don't believe the Jews. That was the answer. If you go back on our, let's call them the tapes, Stuart, right? The old recordings that we did for the longest time, we brought that to light time and time and time again, how the hypocrisy was vast. And we were called, you guys are biased. You guys are just, as Stuart just described, as a bunch of white Jews. You guys are biased. Well, how biased are we today? The entertainers, the Greta Thunbergs, the politicians who stood and yelled with fake news, accusing Israel of genocide, accusing Israel of a famine, accusing Israel of all kinds of an apartheid, all these things with no substance gets reported verbatim by your friends at CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the crowd. But Iran, oh no, I'm sorry, we cannot independently verify that what's going on in Iran is happening. We cannot independently verify. So 10 minutes ago, your source of information coming out of for the war with Gaza came from Hamas, the so-called Ministry of Health, that you used to call out, that you didn't call out, that it was okay, but now you cannot independently verify what's going on in Iran. I have never seen journalism so bad in my life. I've never seen such hypocrisy from these leftist entertainers who find themselves in a bind. If you look online, there's a meme of the Ayatollah laughing his ass off because, hey, I'm getting away with it because I'm not Jewish. Because the world only condemns Jews. The International Criminal Court went after Netanyahu for war crimes.
Yo.
And yet, the Ayatollah, there are no war crimes here. There's nothing happening here. It's his own people. It's okay. Stuart, the IRGC was established in 1979 to protect the regime. It wasn't done to protect the Iranians. It was to protect the regime put forward by the Ayatollah Khomeini back in 1979. They're the ones in the streets who are murdering people, blinding people, denying people entry into hospitals. I've gone through this. You could go back on previous recordings. And yet the media wants independent verification. Seriously? Have you not, why aren't you asking, why are you doing this? Do you not see how disgusting you are? Thousands are being murdered. You could see it on social media. You trusted terrorists over human beings for your information. That's how disgusting you are. As an entertainer, you went out and protested. And if you had the balls like Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, who literally finally came out and said, I support Hamas. Hamas was right. And his BMG, his recording company, would cut him off. If you had that intestinal fortitude, like he did, to show that he is a true hardcore anti-Semite, kudos to you. But all of you on the left are a bunch of fucking hypocrites. It's so cool. It's so trendy to be anti-Jew, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist. We'll go after Jerry Seinfeld because he won't denounce the state of Israel, and therefore we will boycott his show. What the hell does that have to do with anything? That's okay. That we'll report on. But in terms of what's going on in Tehran, Stuart, I have connections in Iran. My kids have friends in Iran, whose families, I should say, are in Iran, and they're petrified. They're scared. They're scared that their parents are going to get killed, their families are going to get killed, because the regime doesn't care. Now, supposedly, Donald Trump is weighing the idea of attack, no attack. But the media is quiet on this. You notice? They're very quiet. Saudi Arabia doesn't like it. Qatar doesn't like it. So when they're going to report on it, they're going to go down that road. They'd rather talk about Davos, how Mark Carney made a speech and how he put Trump in his place. But where is the standing with the Iranian people? Nothing in Davos, nothing in the United States. And why I brought up Minnesota is because this whole thing has been continuously blown out of proportion, where people are yelling Gestapo and ICE and whatever. You haven't a fucking clue what you're talking about. Look what's going on in Tehran. You want to talk about a real Gestapo? That's it. Murdering people on the streets because they don't want to wear a hijab. Murdering women because they refuse to adhere to this Islamic radical faith need. You talk to Iranians who've moved to North America, Stuart, and they will tell you they came here to escape a regime that won't let them live in peace and practice the religion the way they want to practice the religion, not the way that the Ayatollahs want it, how they want to do it. We're in this country. I can practice my Judaism any way I want. No one is going to stop me.
Well,
but in Iran, you will get killed.
Yep.
If this is what you people support, if you're okay with annihilating an entire population because it's not, Jews aren't inflicting pain, you should be called out. So Mark Ruffalo, you should be called out. Benedict Cumberbatch, you should be called out. So many actors and actresses that stood at the damn all these award shows with the red hands, a pin of the red hands. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Oh,
You should all be ashamed of yourself, and may your contracts be canceled, just like Roger Waters.
you know, David, the signs are there. The reports exist. The warnings were issued. They just failed to launch. They failed to be amplified. They were not treated as urgency. So yes, here we go again, David. Another crisis, another round of violence, another moment where silence threatens to become complicity. And, it's not just happening in Iran. It's happening in the streets of New York, right? It's happening in the streets of LA. This constant left regurgitating narrative for one purpose only, to gain control. They don't want to put the Iranian issue on the news. They're afraid. They're terrified. In fact, I'm going to tell you, the left is utterly terrified of us, the media, and the podcast world exposing what's really going on there. The media, David, and we focus a lot of talking about the media, has basically lost control and surrendered to the Democratic Party. The BBC recently was eviscerated, and its clip has gone utterly viral, where we stand for integrity in our broadcast after it is discovered that they snipped together two speeches 54 minutes apart. What is going on in Iran, you cannot snip. You cannot parse. You can't even show it on television. They hang people from cranes in public squares. I'm sorry. Jesus Christ was put on a cross and on a string. This is what the Iranians are. Now, I don't know, David, is that called barbarism? Is that barbaric? How about stoning women that don't want to wear a hijab completely covered or have to run to the store and get something or unaccompanied? What goes on in this country is literally 12th century insanity.
Yeah, but that's Stuart. But this is the thing. It is we've said that this is what they do. But these are the people who have supported.
You talk about the Qataris.
But I've also talked about.
Why are they so quiet about this? Aren't they fellow Muslims that are being massacred and murdered?
No, Stuart. You see, you got to understand something. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's the way they play it. And don't bring the Qataris, who are a bunch of hypocrites in their own way, and don't bring me, the Saudis who the reason Qatar and Saudi Arabia doesn't want Iran attacked is very simple. If you do it there, they're afraid of their own regimes. Just like what happened when Obama had the Arab Spring. These Arab nations were petrified that if the uprising in Egypt happens, it's going to happen in their countries. So the media is not loud enough, Stuart. People are not protesting enough. It's got nothing to do with Qatar and Saudi Arabia. I'm calling out the hypocrites. I'm calling out all of these lovely folks who said that they were there for humanitarian purposes. Really? That's what you call humanitarian?
Yeah, Greta threw her phone into the sea, so she lost the ability to call into CNN and give an update on her travels to Persia to comment on the mullahs. These sensationalists that crave time. Look, David, you and I have been doing this for nearly 6 years, I think, next month. And you know what? We've been, we're funny, we're joking, but, because we do it every single week, 3 days a week. And we don't have professional, publicists and professional producers looking for stories, you and me in the morning. What's going on? What have we heard? How do we find? What's our research? And we come to this as amateur journalists, as amateur podcasters, but we're not amateur human beings. We find the right angle and we give it to the world.
But Stuart, but they don't want to hear it.
No,
the folks on the left,
they don't.
I had and I'm going to wrap it up. I got to wrap this up. We've been accused of going over the 15. Here's the thing, Stuart. The bottom line is this. There are Iranians. Go on social media. There are Iranians in all over the world begging for the help of the world to stop the slaughter in Iran. The silence is incredibly deafening.
It's deafening.
The complicity with the left, is off the charts. These politicians don't even know what to do anymore. Who do I side with? Because if I side with the people of Tehran, it's going to look like I'm siding with Trump. If an entertainer sides with this, it's unbelievable. It's gross. And on that, Stuart, let's wrap this up, please.
So there's that famous music, David, that we play over and over and over and over again. But you know what? We're going to be back Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern. And you know what? I may not be there, but I know David will. And you know what? Unfortunately, I moved the controls too far over to the left. I can't get them anymore. But guys, we'll see you on Wednesday, Friday.